Barakatei Hawa, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Barakatei. Welcome to another live lesson. This is part 2, the importance of the origins of words. Today I want to cover, if the Spirit allows, the word hell, the word grave, and if we have enough time, the word mark. All right. In the Old Testament, because we dealt with the word mark in the New Testament. I want to try to see if we could deal with it in the Old Testament. If I don't get to it in this lesson, Lord's willing, another one. But as you know, the first lesson we went through, we covered the importance of going back to the origins of language, because when you go to the word etymology, it's the study of the true root of that particular word. And we know that the best way to understand language is to go back to the origins of the original language of which these things were written in. And we read that, Jesus, the son of Sirach, or Yahushua, the son of Sirach, if I'm not mistaken, undertook a great task to translate, the scriptures from the Hebrew into the Greek. And he even extended his apologies for some things that were hard to interpret, which they labored to try to find the best words in the Greek to explain what was being said in the Hebrew. And that's why it's so important to go back to the language, the original languages, because you get a better understanding of what's written. See, the English language it has a lot of fillers in it. The Hebrew language is a lot more direct. The Greek language is, direct also, but not as direct as the Hebrew, because the Hebrew is the beginning compound, the beginning structure of languages. As we read in the book of Hebrews 11, that the whole earth was of one language and of one speech, and that was the language of the Hebrew, either call it the Lashon Kodash, the Paleo-Hebrew, and whatever, else you want to call it. So the first scripture I want to start off with, as we've done in other lessons, is the book of Matthew, the 5th chapter. And these are scriptures that these wacky-tacky Christians try to use to try to say that hell is a place where you go and burn forever. And you even have some Israelites that teach it also. You had the ICGJC that taught it. You had, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but if I am, they can correct me. The GOCC teaches it. As of lately, the IUIC is teaching it. And I read a title in one of Elder Pastor's videos that another One West camp is teaching about hell, the hell doctrine, which is showing you that, like the scriptures say, the time will come where some will not endure sound doctrine. And this is why it's important to go back to the origins of words, because if you don't go back to the origins of words in the original language that it was written in, you're not going to understand what is written. Because you could look up the word world, as we did in the last lesson, in the New Testament, and it pops up a lot of different times. But when you go back to the Greek, it has different meanings, depending on what word is there in the Greek. And that's why it's important to go back to the Greek. And when we deal with this scripture here with Yahushai, when he said, let's start at 21, Matthew 5:21, you have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. And the point here is what? Judgment. What is the judgment? Destruction. All right. So prior to him speaking and saying, or using the word hell or hellfire, he set it up by speaking about judgment. Okay? So the judgment, he said, but I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment, which is what? The destruction, or being judged. And whosoever shall say to his brother Raka shall be in danger of the council, being brought before the judges and leaders. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Now, when you see hellfire, you're thinking the conventional Christian way, worldview of hell. And then when you go back into the history of it, it goes back to Dante's Inferno. Dante's Inferno was a play where you had 9 different levels of hell. You know, that was a play. That was a cunningly devised fable that was used later on in pushing the hell doctrine. Now, when we watch, if you ever watch the movie, I quote it from time to time, the Robin Hood, the one with Jamie Foxx and the dude that played Eggsy, I believe it was, in the movie Kingsman. There was a point where the Archbishop Abraham, I forget his name. I always get his name messed up. But he said he played the Archbishop, and he mentioned the word fear. You know, the dude, I think the dude from Kingsman mentioned the word fear, and the Archbishop said, fear, God's the greatest weapon in God's arsenal. That's why the church created hell, because it was a fear tactic. And even when you go to the Compact Dictionary and you look up the word Gehenna, it tells you that it was used as a gate to hell by the later rabbis, you know, that were writing of end times, and then later on hell itself. So when we look at this and we look at the word hellfire, remember, it's dealing with the judgment. And where does the judgment play out? Well, let's get it. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And is it the 16th verse? Yep. Ecclesiastes 3:16. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment. See? The place of judgment. See how it is all tying together and coming together? Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. It says that wickedness was there. Is there not wickedness on the earth? This is the place of judgment. There's wickedness. What happens when the place becomes wicked? It's destroyed. What happened to the earth in the beginning? It was destroyed by a flood. What happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? They were destroyed. What happened to all them different empires that became wicked? Eventually they were destroyed. That was their judgment, right? That wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. So under the sun is what? The earth. What is under the sun? The place of judgment. All right? And this is where judgment is played out. Now, when we look up the word hell, fire, the word fire is pur or pyre, where you get the word pyro or pyromaniac, somebody that's obsessed with fire. But then you have what? Gehenna or Gehenna, right?
Strong's G 1067. Gehenna.
Gehenna, right? And it gives you what? A root word etymology. So this Greek word that Yahushua used for hell goes back to a root word in the what? Hebrew origin, which is Gaya'ah, which is valley, and Hanam, which is Hinnom, the valley of Hinnom. Gaya'ah Hanam, this is where you get the word Gehenna, right? It says hell is the place of the future punishment called Gehenna of fire. This was originally the valley of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem, where the filth and dead animals of the city were cast out and burnt, a fit symbol of the wicked and their future destruction, which is what? Judgment. So it's important to understand the origins of a word so that you can get a better understanding of the context that's being used. That's why Yahushua spoke about what? You know, judgment. Gehenna, the valley of Hinnom. Now, let's go from there to the book of James, which the book of James, chapter 3 and verse 6 says, and the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. Oh, see, that's that fire of hell. No, that's Dante's Inferno. That's that cunningly devised fable. But when you go there right? And you look up that word hell, what do you see? The word Gehenna. Once again, the origin is the Valley of Hinnom. Now, what happened in the Valley of Hinnom? You had the children of Israel that would use it as a dump, where they would bring refuse to. They would burn the refuse. In some records, it states that criminals were brought there for judgment, and the children of Israel would burn their children in sacrifice to Molech there. Therefore, it was later that area was used as a symbol where the Lord said, I'm going to call this the Valley of Slaughter. And Yahushua was using that as what? As a symbol of the future judgment that's going to come upon the world, Jake included, the ones that are not part of the elect, the judgment of the world to come for their iniquities. All right? So now let's go from there. Let's get one more. Let's go to Revelation chapter 1 and verse 18. It says, I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. So be true, and have the keys of hell and of death. This is Yahushua speaking. The word for hell there. Okay, it's going into something else. Okay, you know what? Let's go into that. This hell right here. So that hell right there was dealing with Gehenna, the place of judgment, future judgment. This hell right here is dealing with Hades. Now, what is Hades? Hades is the grave. Whether you go 6 feet underground, whether you go into a sepulcher, whether you're buried in a cave, whether you're buried in the caves of the catacombs, whatever the case may be, it just simply means the grave. When you go to that, name Hades or Pluto, the god of the lower regions, right? Because these were made up myths, made up by the Greeks, later followed by the Romans. Orcus, the netherworld, the realm of the dead. And why would they call it the netherworld or the lower regions? Because you would be buried. And the even Job called it, where there's no order. It's a place of darkness. There's no activity there. Later use of this word, the grave, death, hell, but it is the grave. It's not, in the Greek, originally it was a myth, but it was later used as the grave because the grave is Hades, But when you go to the Greek mythology and Roman mythology, they're using it as a place where you go and burn forever, whatever the case may be. All right? Now, so building off of that, so Yahushua said he has the keys of hell and death, right? Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 55. And it says, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? I'm sorry, I started 54. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be... Why? Because once these mortal bodies, the bodies that can die, put on immortality, which is the bodies that can't die, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. You see? So death being swallowed up in victory is dealing with no more dying. This is why Yahushua said he has a key of hell and of death. He has the ability to put someone in the grave and the ability to to deliver them from that. All right? O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? So, let's see what else we got. Let's go to Matthew. and 23. It says, and thou, Capernaum. Now, what is Capernaum? Capernaum was a city in Israel, up in the north. I believe it was in not too far, or in the region of Galilee, in that region up there. And pretty much they were a well-to-do people. They were doing very well. Let me see something. Matter of fact, let's go here. Let's check something out. Because I wanted to... Capernaum, village of comfort. Look, fitting name, village of comfort. And they were comfortable. A flourishing city of Galilee situated on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee or Lake Gennesaret, near the place where the Jordan flows into the lake. I'm not sure. Just bear with me 1 second. Let me see if I can find this. Okay, I got it right here. Zondervan. Let me see. What is that? Capernaum. Okay. Okay. Just bear with me 1 second. I didn't know I was going to go here, so. Okay. Should be coming up soon. Capernaum. It says Hebrew Kapar Nahum, a town on the northwest shore of the Sea of Galilee, where Yahushua made his headquarters during his ministry in Galilee. In Scripture, it is mentioned only in the Gospels and perhaps did not arise until after the exile. That is, that it was a town of considerable size in the days of Yahushua is shown by a number of facts. A tax collector had his office there. A high officer of King Herod Antipas had his residence in Capernaum and built a synagogue for the people there. Yahushua performed many striking miracles in the town, among them the healing of the centurion's palsied servant, so on and so forth. Capernaum was also the setting for the discourse of the bread of life. In spite of Yahushua's remarkable works and teachings, the people did not repent, and Yahushua predicted the complete ruin of the place. That's why I said, "Thou that exalted into heaven shall be brought down to hell." It says his prophecy was so completely fulfilled that the town has disappeared, and its very site is a matter of debate. This is what Yahushua meant. Not that, oh, y'all going to hell. No. That's what he meant. So going back, and thou Capernaum, which are exalted unto heaven, meaning you're in a heavenly state, shall be brought down to hell. You're going to be brought down to the grave. You're going to be brought down to a hellish condition. For if the mighty works which have been done in thee had been done in Sodom, it would have remained unto this day. So when we look the word for hell, the word there is what? Hades. You know, meaning to a total ruin, to the grave. Because if somebody's in heaven, they're prospering. But if they're in hell, they're in a bad position. This is why you had the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. The rich man was in a heavenly state, and Lazarus was in a hellish state. Then eventually Lazarus was delivered, which represents Israel, and they were what? Comforted in a heavenly situation, and the rich man, which is Esau, was brought down to what? To a hellish condition. All right. So let's go from there. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you something. Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 15. Right. I'm gonna read the 54th verse again. The point is in 55. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. This is what we're waiting for. Because death is the sentence that was passed on all men after Adam did what he did. Adam and Eve went off. And when Adam went off, that set the course of the world on fire, and death came upon all men. Now we're waiting for the second Adam to come back, Yahushua, and deliver us from these corruptible bodies and from death. right? It says, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? When we go to the Greek for the word grave, what do we see? Behold, Hades. Hades. So what does Hades mean? It means the grave. All right? In this case here, I believe this is the only time that the word grave in English appears in the New Testament for the word Hades, because that's exactly what it means. Now, understanding that, if you were to look at this word grave, the word grave itself has many different meanings, or it has different meanings. Now, when we go to the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 3, did something wrong. 1 Timothy chapter 3, and let's see. You know what? Before we go there, let me check this real quick. St. John, Salaki, I wrote these notes a couple of days ago, and I didn't get a chance to do the lesson, you know. So just bear me 1 second. St. John 11 and 17. Now check this out. I want to show you this. And even the word grave itself in the English has, not only does it have different meanings, but it also sometimes you have different words that pop up. And in this case, for the word grave, then when Yahushua came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. This is dealing with Lazarus, right? And when we look up the word grave here, the word there in grave is Nemion. Now, Nemion means a remembrance. I don't know how many of you brothers watched that movie Johnny Mnemonic. Johnny Mnemonic, you know, I don't know if they brought it out in the movie or not, but the word mnemonic was spelled with an M. You know, Mnemonic. That word right there means memory. Memory. So the word Nemion means any visible object preserving or recalling the memory of any person or thing. So that grave would be what? This is why you would have a tombstone. You would have a mausoleum. You would have a sepulcher, because those would be as a monument to who the person that's laying there is. And in some cases, some mausoleums, some sepulchers, some headstones will give like a brief description, will give the person's name, their birth date, a brief description of their life, or what type of person they were, if they were a king, if they were a soldier, if they were whatever the case may be. So it's a memorial monument, specifically a sepulcher monument, okay? So if you just go by the word grave, you wouldn't understand unless you go and look up the meaning of words. And even when you deal with the word grave itself, when we go to 1 Timothy, let me just 1 Timothy 3 and 8. This is dealing with a bishop, right? No, a deacon. Likewise must the deacons be what? Grave. Now, the word grave, outside of being a place where you bury people, is also a serious-minded individual, right? Somebody that's staunch or serious-minded. But it goes deeper than that, because those, like a deacon, a bishop, a teacher, would be a man of discipline, right? Somebody that would teach you. And when somebody teaches you, you being a loyal disciple of that, or loyal student of that person, what do? You reverence that person. You revere them, okay? So you would look at them, you know, as an honorable person, right? So when we go to this word grave, right, we notice that the word here is not Hades, because this is not the grave, the actual grave. Neither is it a monument nemion. But it's the word semnos, right? Semnos, August, venerable, reverend. So it's somebody that you would revere. So the bishops, deacons in them, they would have to be people that were grave, people that would be revered. For what? For their good works. There wasn't no charlatans like Eli's sons. There wasn't no, doing things for filthy lucre's sake. They weren't demons like that. They were men that were of reputation, men that had a good report, among the congregation as being honest men. Just like when the apostles chose 7 men to officiate the business of the tables for the Hebrews and the Greek women, which were all Israelites, they chose men that were revered, men that were grave, men that were well reported of, men that were sincere, men that were honest. All right, so that's what it means. Now, when we go to the root of that is Sebo, right? Sebo, and here goes Sebo Mahi, but you have Sebo. I wonder what this is here. Key. All right, that's going into a whole Sebo. So this one is
Strong's G 4576. Sabo.
right.
Sabo.
Sabo. Now, when I read this, right, let's see what it says. To revere, to worship. In other words, to give them their due benevolence, their esteem, because of they're giving them their esteem because of their examples. They ain't just talking the talk, they walking the walk. Now, when I saw this word, I thought of the word Sibo, and when you watch those karate movies, a lot of times when you see the student and they'll see their teacher, they'll call him Sibo. Now, I don't know if that word means the same as revered, but it would make sense that it does, because I tried to look it up. I couldn't really find too much on it. But when you look that up, when you watch those movies, they're reverencing their master, their teacher, calling him Sibo. So I don't know if that means teacher. I don't know if it means master. I don't know if it means revered one, or all of the above. So that's what I thought about. So see how just those words in the word grave, three Greek words that can bring different meanings. One of them, Hades, being the grave. The other one, Nemion, meaning a monument, a tombstone, or a sepulcher. And then this one, Sibo or Sebo, being somebody that's revered. All off of the word grave. All this mess over a cracker. Inside joke. All right? So, now that that's out the way, the let me just check something real quick, because I believe the point is made on that. Yeah, right here. This is what really I should have read this first before I read the one in 1 Corinthians. But let's do it. Let's read it. Revelation 20:14, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. Meaning, once the destruction comes, death and hell, the ability to die and the grave for the Israelites is going to be finished. There's not going to be any more of that. That's what the Lord said, that he will wipe away all tears from their eyes. This is the second death, because when the destruction comes for the Israelites, that's it. No more death for the ones that make it, right? And that's why in 1 Corinthians 15:55, it says, "O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory?" Like I said, I wrote these notes a couple of days ago, so I wasn't really, I should have just did it this way, but you still get the idea. All right? So, now that we got that out the way, where are we at? Half an hour. I still feel the spirit to keep going, but I think this is a good spot to end it right there. And the Lord's will I could come back and do the word Mark in the Old Testament, and maybe I'll throw something else in there if the Spirit allows. You know, so with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's Shifu. Shifu, the Apostle Tar Gabar put it up. Shifu, simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, or in Mandarin, or Sifu. Okay, so it's Sifu, not Sibo. In Cantonese, or Sai Hu in Hokkien, is a title for and the role of a skillful person or a all of a skillful person or a master. Okay, the character means skilled person or teacher, while this right here means tutor and means father. See, now check that out. So, you know, you would reverence your teacher, you know. So, you know, I'm going to leave it there because, like I said, I could go into the word Mark in the Old Testament, but I think I should, you know, save that for another lesson. So with that, you know, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified, and Tawada to the Apostle Gabar for helping me out with that, because I wasn't sure how to spell it, so I actually thought it was Sibo, but it's Shifu. All right. So Shalom. Pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Shalom.